People in the back, can you hear me clearly? Okay, good. Have you ever had the question in mind for so long that it becomes part of how you think? Maybe even part of who you are as a person? I had a question in my mind for many, many years, and that is, how can you speed up learning? Now, this is an interesting question because if you speed up learning, if you can, and if you learn really fast, you probably wouldn't have to go to school at all. Now, when I was young, school was sort of okay, but I found quite often that school got in the way of learning. So I had the question in mind, how do you learn faster? And this began when I was very, very young. When I was 11 years old, I wrote a letter to researchers in the Soviet Union asking about Hypnopedia. This is sleep learning, where you get a tape recorder, you put it beside your bed and turn on so in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, when you're supposed to be learning from this. A good idea. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, but Hypnopedia did open doors to research in other areas, and we have incredible discoveries about learning. First question. I went on from there to become passionate about fast psychology, and I've been involved in psychology in many different ways for the rest of my life up until this point. In 1981, I took myself to China, and I decided that I was going to be native level in Chinese inside 2 years. Now you need to understand that in 1981, everybody thought Chinese was really difficult, and that a Western could study for 10 years or more and never really get very good at it. And I also went into with a different idea, which was taking all of the conclusions from psychology up to the point, applying them to the learning process. What was really cool was in 6 months I was fluent in Mandarin Chinese, and it took a little bit longer to get up to native. But I looked around and I saw all of these people who from different countries struggling terribly with Chinese. I saw Chinese people struggling terribly to learn English and other languages, and so my question got refined down to, how can you help a normal adult learn a new language quickly, easily, and effectively? Now, this is a really important question in today's world. We have massive challenges with environment, we have massive challenges with social dislocation, with worse also the thing going on, and if you can't communicate, we are really gonna have difficulty solving these problems. So we need to be able to speak each other's languages. It's really important. The question is how do you do that? Well, it's actually really easy. You look around for people who can already do it. You look for a situation where it's already working, and then you identify the principles and apply them. I've been looking for language learning and modern learning for about 50 to 20 years. And my conclusion, my observation from this is that any adult can learn second language in fluent inside 6 months. Now, when I say this, most people think I'm crazy. This is not possible. So let me remind everybody of the history of human progress. It's all about expanding our limits. In 1950, everybody believes that running 1 mile in 4 minutes was impossible. And then Roger Bennett studied it in 1956, and from there it got shorter and shorter. 100 years ago, everybody believes that heavy stuff doesn't fly. Except it does, we all notice. How does heavy stuff fly? We reorganize the material using principles that we have learned from observing natural birds in this case. And today, we've gone even further. So you can fly a car. You can buy one of these for a couple of $100,000 in the world that fly in different ways. Run from squirrel. So all you need to do is copy what a flying squirrel does, build a suit called wingsuit, and going off you can fly like a squirrel. Now a lot of people, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people think they can draw. However, there are some key principles, 5 principles that you can apply to learn to draw. Actually, learn to draw in 5 days. So if you draw like this, You learn these principles 5 days, you apply them, and after 5 days you can go something like this. And although this is true, that was my first drawing after 5 days. Principles ever to do. Look at this, wow. So that's how I look, concentrating so intensely that my brain is exploding. So anybody can learn to draw in 5 days. And in the same way, with same logic and second language in 6 months. How? There are 5 principles and 7 actions. There may be a few more, but these are absolutely core. And before I get into those, I just wanted to talk about 2 myths when I was spared 2 myths. The first is, then you tell me about Zoe. Zoe came from Australia, went to Thailand, and tried to learn Dutch, struggling extremely a great year, and finally people realize you are completely useless, you are not talented, give up, you're wasting, waste of time. There was very across 5 principles. She moved to Brazil and she applied them 6 months. She was fluent in Portuguese. In Thailand, doesn't matter. People also think immersion in a new culture is the language, but look around Hong Kong, look at all the Westerns who've been 10 years who can speak a lot of Chinese. Look at the Chinese living in America, Britain, Australia, Canada, have been 10, 20 years and they don't speak any English. Immersion per se does not work. Why? Because drowning man cannot learn to swim. When you don't speak a language, you drop yourself to all error, stuff over your head you won't learn. So, what are the 5 principles you need to understand first? The 4 words: attention, money, relevance, and memory. These interconnect in very, very important ways, especially when we are talking about learning. Come with me on a journey through a forest. You go on a walk through a forest, you'll see something like this. Marks, or maybe you pay attention, maybe you don't. You go another 50 meters and you see this. You should be paying attention. Another 50 meters, if you haven't been paying attention, you see this. And at this point, you're paying attention. And you just learned that this is important. It's relevant because it means this. And anything that is related, any information related to your survival, the stuff you're gonna pay attention and remembering, is related to personal goals. Then you're gonna pay attention to relevant. You're gonna remember. So first, focus on the language content with relevant to you, which brings us to tool. We master tools using by tools. We learn tools fastest when they were relevant to us. So the keyboard is a tool. Typing keyboard, Chinese, suddenly there were methods for this. There's course many years ago. Who went to night school Tuesday night, Thursday night, 2 hours each time practicing at home. She spent 9 months and she did not learn to type Chinese. And one night we had a crisis. We had 48 hours to deliver a training manual in Chinese. And she got the job, and I can guarantee you in 48 hours she learned to type Chinese because it's relevant, meaningful, and using a tool create value. So the second principle for learning language is to use your language as a tool to communicate right from day one, as a kid does. When I first arrived in world of Chinese, and on my second got the train like overnight. At the 8 I was sitting in a dining car. One of the guards on the train, he took an interest in me for some reason. And we just chatted all night in Chinese. Making movements, move his hands, facial expression, piece by piece by piece, I understand more and more. What was really cool was 2 weeks later, when people were talking Chinese around me, I almost understand some of this. I didn't even have to learn that. But I observed it and then I on the train, which brings us to the third first. When you first understand the message, then you will acquire the language unconsciously. And this is really well documented now. So something called comprehensive info research on this. David Crenshaw did in the video published also the studies. This is just for one of them. The purple bar showed a score on different tests for language. The purple people
The purple people were people who had learned by grammar and formal study.
The green ones the comprehensive input. So comprehension works. Comprehension is key. And language learning is not about accumulating lots of knowledge. In many ways, it's about physiological training. Physiological training. A woman I want to grade in English at school. She got out on the way to psychology course, went to the US, and she found she couldn't understand what people were saying. And people started asking, "Are you deaf?" And she was English deaf because we have filters in our brain that filter in the sounds that we are familiar with, and they filter out the sounds language that we are not. And if you can't hear it, you want to study. If you can not gonna learn it. So you actually have to able to hear these sounds, and you wish to do that. Physiological training. Speaking takes muscle. You've got 43 muscles in your face. You have to coordinate those in a way that you make sounds that other people will understand. If you ever done a use for a couple of days, you know, body feels, hurts. If your brain is hurting, you're doing right. And the final principle is state, psychological state. If you're sad, angry, worried, upset, you're not gonna learn, period. If you're happy, relaxed, in an alpha brain state, curious, you're gonna learn quickly and very quickly. You need to tolerate of ambiguity. If you're one of those people who needs to understand 100% every word you're hearing, you're gonna nuts if you're incredibly upset all the time because you're not perfect. If you're comfortable with getting some, not getting some, just paying attention to what you do understand, you're gonna be fine, relaxed, and you'll be learning quickly. So based on those 5 principles, what are the 7 actions in the case? 그만. 아, 오늘 너무 많이 했어. 아, 이 정도 했으면 됐어. 끝! 너무 열심히 하면 또 안 돼. 또 내일 할 거 남겨놔야지.